Hello, and welcome back to the Military Matrix. Today's breaking development is unfolding over the skies of northern South America, and it has sent a wave of shock, urgency, and diplomatic tension rippling across the region. Venezuela is sounding the alarm after reports confirmed that U.S. B-52 Stratofortress long-range strategic bombers flew uncomfortably close to Venezuelan airspace, sparking accusations, scrambling air defense systems, and raising new questions about the escalating geopolitical friction surrounding the Caribbean corridor. According to defense officials familiar with the situation, the U.S. Air Force conducted what is being described as a high-visibility strategic presence operation involving at least one B-52 bomber flying near Venezuelan borders during a route that passed along the southern edge of the Caribbean Sea. These missions, typically coordinated under U.S. Strategic Command as part of routine bomber task force deployments, are intended to reassure allies and deter hostile actors. But for Venezuela's government, the flyby was anything but routine. Caracas is calling it a provocation, a deliberate show of force, and a reminder of the ongoing tensions between Washington and the Maduro administration. Eyewitness accounts from coastal residents in Falcon and Zulia states reported hearing the distant but unmistakable sound of heavy aviation engines, a deep, rumbling presence that can be felt as much as it can be heard. While the aircraft did not violate Venezuelan airspace, military analysts confirmed that the bomber traveled closer than usual, enough to trigger Venezuela's network of coastal early warning radars. These radars detected what they classified as a HIVE-AL-U foreign military platform, immediately prompting the Venezuelan Air Force to elevate readiness levels across western and northern sectors. Inside Venezuela's military command centers, the appearance of a B-52 so close to sovereign airspace created an atmosphere of urgency. Air defense officers were reportedly ordered to track the bomber's trajectory, while fighter aircraft stationed at El Libertador Air Base and Generalissimo Francisco de Miranda Air Base were placed on standby. Although no Venezuelan fighters were ultimately scrambled, the government insists that preparations were underway in case the aircraft took a more aggressive posture. President Nicolas Maduro addressed the incident in a televised statement, calling it a reckless maneuver by the United States, and accusing Washington of testing Venezuela's air defenses in an act designed to create instability. He warned that any violation of Venezuelan skies would be met with immediate military response. These words were accompanied by images released by the Venezuelan Ministry of Defense, showing tracking data, radar signatures, and what officials claim is real time monitoring of the bomber as it flew near the maritime boundary. Meanwhile, U.S. defense officials have not denied the presence of the B-52 in the region, instead reaffirming that all operations were conducted in full compliance with international law. They emphasized that the bomber remained in international airspace at all times, and that such missions are routine demonstrations of global readiness. Still, the timing of this operation is impossible to ignore, coming at a moment when relations between Washington and Caracas have become increasingly strained. In recent months, tensions have grown due to disputes over the Essequibo region claimed by Venezuela, but controlled by Guyana, a close partner of the United States. The discovery of massive offshore oil reserves by ExxonMobil has transformed the region into one of the most geopolitically charged zones in the Western Hemisphere. Venezuela's attempts to reassert claims have triggered military exercises, border deployments, and diplomatic warnings. The U.S., in turn, has intensified support for Guyana, including the deployment of advisory missions and joint exercises in the Caribbean. In this context, the appearance of an American strategic bomber so close to Venezuela's northern frontier carries powerful symbolism. Military analysts point out that B-52 missions are often orchestrated to send messages that need not be spoken, but are clearly understood. The B-52, capable of carrying nuclear weapons and delivering precision conventional strikes across continents, represents the core of U.S. strategic deterrence. When such an aircraft flies near contested or sensitive areas, It signals capability, reach, and readiness. For Venezuela, a nation already on high alert due to escalating tensions over territorial disputes, this kind of demonstration adds fuel to an already volatile environment. Sources within Venezuela's armed forces claim that air defense units were instructed to simulate active targeting protocols, including radar lock-on simulations using the Pecora 2M and Buck M2E systems. These simulations are not actual engagement attempts, but a measure of readiness designed to evaluate how fast units can respond in the event of a real airspace violation. While there is no evidence the U.S. bomber detected any radar locking, military specialists note that both sides are now engaged in a dangerous game of signaling, a game where miscalculations can escalate rapidly. International observers have also weighed in. Russia, a close ally of Venezuela and a key military supplier, criticized the U.S. flight, calling it an act of intimidation. Moscow emphasized that U.S. strategic aircraft have no reason to be operating near Venezuela except to assert pressure or interfere with regional stability. Meanwhile, several South American nations expressed concern that heightened military activities could spill into broader insecurity across the Caribbean and northern Amazon basin. Economic observers are also closely watching how this tension may impact regional oil markets. Venezuela, despite years of sanctions and economic decline, remains one of the world's largest holders of proven oil reserves. Any sign of instability, especially involving U.S. forces, tends to trigger speculation about supply risks. And with the global energy landscape already strained, even symbolic military gestures can carry financial repercussions. For now, Venezuelan military officials say they are continuing to monitor the situation and are prepared for any future incursions. Defense Minister Vladimir Padrino Lopez stated that the nation's sovereignty is not negotiable and that the armed forces stand ready to defend territorial integrity. This rhetoric suggests that Caracas is positioning itself to respond more aggressively to similar incidents in the future. On the U.S. side, strategic analysts argue that bomber presence missions in the Caribbean send a message not just to Venezuela, but to global rivals. They show that Washington intends to maintain full freedom of movement in international airspace and will continue projecting power even in contested regions. Whether these actions contribute to stability or push the region closer to confrontation remains open to debate. As tensions continue to rise, the incident serves as a reminder of how quickly military operations, even those intended as routine, can become catalysts for political escalation. The skies above the Caribbean are becoming increasingly crowded with surveillance aircraft, maritime patrol planes, and military forces from multiple nations. And each new maneuver, each flight path, each radar detection, each statement adds another layer of complexity to an already fragile geopolitical landscape. We will continue monitoring developments closely as more information emerges about the U.S. bomber mission, Venezuela's response, and the broader implications for regional security. What is certain is that the situation is far from resolved, and the next steps taken by both nations will determine whether this remains a tense standoff or evolves into something more dangerous. Stay with us as we follow every angle of this developing story. And once again, thank you for watching the Military Matrix.